Welcome to Virtual Classroom. Our topics today is autoimmunity and cardiac disease. In the first part of the lecture, we'll describe the immune mechanism. Then we'll describe the different exaggeration or alteration in the immune mechanism, particularly autoimmunity. Then we'll talk about the autoimmune diseases which affect the heart and blood vessels. So we'll begin our lecture with description of the immune mechanism first. So our topics is autoimmunity and cardiac disease. First of all, we'll describe the non-specific defense mechanism and immunity. We know that the first line of defense of the body is the intact skin and mucous membrane and various secretion that arise from this skin and mucous membrane that prevents the bacterial invasion. Apart from that, there are some innate immune cells which are not very specific. They act non-specifically towards various invading organisms or any foreign bodies. These are derivatives of the stem cells. They are granulocyte, including the neutrophil, basophil, and eosinophil, the monocytes, and the natural killer cell. There are other immunities which are the adaptive immune system, which develops later on in the life, and due to exposure to different types of foreign antigen and foreign bodies, this immune response are mounted. This adaptive immune response are of two types. One is antibody mediated or called humoral immunity. Another is cell mediated or called cell mediated immunity. And we know that the antibody arises from the B cell and its derivative, that is the plasma cell, and the cellular immunity arises from the T cell, and these T cells may be again regulatory T cell, killer T cell, cytotoxic T cell, cytokine secreting T cell, helper T cell, which may be of several types. First of all, we'll go into the basic of immune response. We know any foreign body which is presented to the antigen presenting cell, they engulf the foreign body or bacterium or any other microorganism. They invade it and engulf it, and then it goes into phagosome and is divided into multiple parts by fusion with the lysosome, phagolysosome. And this antigen then enters into the endoplasmic reticulum, where it binds to the MHC complex, that is the major histocompatibility complex antigen, and this combined antigen then is presented on the surface in combination with the MHC molecule, and this is then represented to T cell for further immune response. We know that the helper T cell, these are CD4 cell, CD4 positive cell. This can recognize the class 2 bound MHC molecule, class 2 MHC molecule bound antigen on the surface of the antigen presenting cell. So it bounds, the T cell receptor bounds to this antigen along with the class 2 MHC molecule, and a co-stimulation also occurs due to a co-stimulant also occurs, and this changes the naive helper T cell into activated helper T cell. A activated helper T cell then stimulates by releasing some cytokines, stimulates the B cell to form a clone of B cell which are called memory B cell, and a clone of plasma cell which produces antibody. These antibodies are secreted from the plasma cells and can act, it is transported by the blood, that is plasma, and can act upon any foreign antigen remote from its place of secretion. So it's like an artillery soldier which can fire the shell to a place distant from this place of secretion. So this arm of immune response is called humoral immunity. Cell-mediated immune response is similar. Here the antigen represented by the antigen presenting cell. Here the helper T cell is also recognizes the antigen present on the MHC complex, and a co-stimulation occurs. This co-stimulation then converts the naive T cell into active T cell. This active T cell that secretes lymphokines, which act upon the cytotoxic or cytotoxic T lymphocyte or killer cell, and they mount the cell-mediated immunity. This can also, this cell-mediated immunity and the humoral immunity, they act side by side. So at the same time, they can also stimulate the B cell to produce the humoral immunity. So the cell-mediated immunity or the humoral immunity doesn't act in isolation. They are orchestrated and synchronized to each other. Humoral immunity, we know that the T helper cell, that is the CD4 cell, then recognizes the antigen present on the antigen presenting cell on the surface of the antigen presenting cell in combination with the MHC complex, and then recognize and a co-stimulator, say for example in case of B cell it is CD40. So this co-stimulation then change some lymphokines are secreted like IL-2, IL-4, IL-5 that acts upon the B cell and converts it into the memory cell or plasma cell, which produces the large amount of antibody. So helper T cell activation occurs through different ways, and its response is also different. So helper T cell may be converted into memory cell. It may act upon the B cell to produce the humoral immunity. It may give rise to killer T cell to produce the cellular immunity, or it may act upon, help the action of the non-specific cells also, like neutrophil, macrophages, to mount an non-specific defense reaction. T cell activation. Naive T cell, when it encounters an antigen presented by the antigen presenting cell in complex with the MHC complex, is converted. This naive T cell is converted into activated T cell. This activated T cell may be converted into activated cytotoxic T cell, or it may be activated helper T cell. T helper 2 cell is actually mounts the humoral immunity, and the T helper 1 cell that mounts the cellular immunity or cell-mediated immunity. What are the differences between the T helper cell 1 and T helper cell 2? We know that the T helper cell 1 that produces type 1 cytokines, these are interleukin 2, and the rest are interferon gamma, tumor necrosis factor alpha, tumor necrosis factor beta. This T helper 1 cell activates macrophages and dendritic cell for intracellular killing of pathogens. They kill the intracellular pathogens, and it mediates cell-mediated immunity. T helper 2 cell that produces type 2 cytokines, mainly interleukin 4, 5, 10, 13, etc. provides help to B cell in antibody response, mediates allergy and immunity to extracellular pathogen. This is important, extracellular pathogen including parasites. So they mediate a cell humoral immunity. So we see that there are at least 4 subpopulation of lymphocytes. These are CD8 or cytotoxic T cell, B cell, regulatory T cell, and CD4 T cell. What about the receptors? The receptors, T cell receptors are of 2 types that bound to CD4 T cell is a CD4 T cell receptor. It's binds to MHC class 2 antigen molecule. So it has two chain actually. One is alpha chain. Alpha chain is produced by alpha 1, alpha 2, and alpha 3 uh, sub um, domain, and the another chain is beta 2 microglobulin. It's a smaller one. These two actually combines to form the T cell receptor in case of CD4 cell. It has an extramembranous portion, a transmembranous portion, and an intracytoplasmic portion. Whenever any antigen bounds to this T cell receptor, when the co-stimulations are also stimulated, then it produces secondary messenger from inside the intracytoplasmic part and mounts the reaction, immune response. In case of CD8, it binds to MHC class 1 molecule. It has two chain, alpha chain and beta chain, linked by disulfide linkage. It has also extracytoplasmic domain, the transmembrane domain, and intracytoplasmic domain. So the cytokine are of two types. The substances, chemical substances released by lymphocytes are called lymphokines, and those secreted by macrophages are called chemokines. These are all cytokines, and cytokines broadly are classified into two groups. One is pro-inflammatory cytokines, another is anti-inflammatory cytokines. Pro-inflammatory cytokines are tumor necrosis factor alpha, interleukin 1, interleukin 6, chemokines, CD4 lymphokines, etc. And the anti-inflammatory are transforming growth factor beta, IL-10, IL-4, and IL-5. Cytokines has different properties. Its actions are different. It may have pleiotropic action, that is, a given cytokine may have different effects on different target cell. So it's the pleiotropic action, redundancy, two or more cytokines that mediate similar function. It may be synergistic in its effects, that is, the combined effect of two cytokines or cellular activity is greater than the additive effect of the individual cytokines. It may be antagonistic to each other. The effects of one cytokine may inhibit or offset the action of another cytokine. It induces cascade type of reaction, a chain reaction, when the action of one cytokine on a target cell induces that cell to produce one or more other cytokine, which in turn induce other target cell to produce other cytokine. So a chain reaction goes on. Now we'll talk a few words about the antibody structure, the structure of an antibody molecule. This is the basic structure. It has, we know, Y-shaped, and it has a heavy chain and a light chain. This is the heavy chain and this is the light chain. Heavy chain has, heavy and light chain both has a constant segment of chain portion that is called FC portion. Another is variable segment that is called FAB portion. These two chains, that is the heavy chain, both are bound to each other by disulfide bond, and there are some domains which are also bound by disulfide bond, and the light chain and heavy chains are also connected to each other by the disulfide bond. The FC fragment of the heavy chain and light chain are the stem of the Y, forms the stem of the Y and a portion of the branch of the Y, and this has binding sites also. The binding site here, it binds the complement. It is binding sites that can activate the complement system are covered when antibody is secreted, but becomes exposed when the antibody binds to an antigen. Binding sites may also present that attach the secreted antibody to the surface of the macrophages, basophil, and mast cell. So here we see this binding site can remain bound to a macrophage, may bound to an basophil or mast cell. So in type 1 hypersensitivity reaction, that is the anaphylactic reaction, it remains bound to, particularly the immunoglobulin E remains bound to the mast cell and can mount a mast cell contains numerous granules, which contains also some secretory material, vasoactive and other bronchospasm. It produces bronchospasm and vasoactivation like vasodilation, increased permeability of the vessel capillaries, etc. So whenever the immunoglobulin E is activated, then the mast cell degranulation occurs. So we see the variable segment is has both heavy chain and light chain component. Here the antigen can bind. There are several types of immune response. So energy. So we'll have to make this definition clear before proceeding further. Energy means absence of normal immune response to a particular antigen or allergen. So it may be a generalized energy or it may be specific to a particular antigen or allergen. So that is called energy. That when the body cannot mount any immune response to that particular antigen or allergen. Hypersensitivity. It is a state of altered reactivity in which the body reacts with an exaggerated immune response to a foreign antigen. So there are two criteria. One is altered reactivity, another is exaggerated immune response. So both these criteria causes a hypersensitivity reaction. Atopy. What is atopy? Atopy refers to genetic tendency to develop allergic diseases such as allergic rhinitis, asthma, or atopic dermatitis. Atopy is typically associated with heightened immune responses to common allergens, especially Indian allergens and food allergens. So it's a common allergic reaction. These persons are also called atopic persons. We know that the hypersensitivity reaction may be of 4 types. Type 1 hypersensitivity reaction is the immediate hypersensitivity reaction. It is also called anaphylaxis or anaphylactic reaction. It is mediated by the immunoglobulin E, which remains bound to the mast cell. Whenever an antigen binds to the immunoglobulin E, then the mast cell degranulation occurs, releasing number of vasoactive substances, which causes vasodilation, increased capillary permeability, and bronchospasm, and a generalized anaphylactic reaction. This is type 1 reaction. Another is the type 2 reaction or cytotoxic reaction. Here the antibody-dependent cell-mediated cytotoxicity occurs. Here the antibody remains bound to a cell. Whenever an antigen binds to this antibody and that binds to the cell membrane and complements are activated, and the complements ultimately forms the perforin substances which damages the membrane of the cell, factor 7, 9, 10, and produces cell lysis. For example, in case of hemolytic reaction, we know the RBCs are destroyed by this mechanism. Type 3 response is the immune complex reaction. Here the antigen and antibody are complex together and then activates, they remains bound to, not bound to, but remains adherent to the some of the cell membrane, and they activate the polymorphonuclear leukocytes and macrophages, etc., and which releases the lysosomal enzyme which cause tissue damage. So that is called immune complex reaction. In type 4, there is cell-mediated immunity, that is delayed hypersensitivity reaction. It is typically found in case of tuberculin reaction. Here, initiated by the T lymphocyte, which act upon the effector cell. The T lymphocyte releases lymphokine. This effector T cell then activates the macrophages. Macrophage then releases the chemokines, both the lymphokines and the chemokines produces some sort of tissue destruction and accumulation of lot of other chronic inflammatory cells. This is called cell-mediated response. Another thing is immunological tolerance. How do we identify our self-antigen and we do not destroy our antigen? So immunological response tolerance is the phenomenon of unresponsiveness to an antigen as a result of exposure of the T cell to that antigen. Self-tolerance may be of two types. It may be central or peripheral. Any imperfection of the immunological tolerance leads to autoimmunity. Here we see the antigen presenting cell and co-stimulation. That is also important in understanding the immunological tolerance and autoimmunity, particularly autoimmunity. We see that the antigen presenting cell presents the antigen in combination with the histocompatibility molecule. It may be MHC class 1 or class 2 depending upon the T cell to which it binds. So this T cell receptor then recognizes the antigen bound to this histocompatibility complex, and that produces a signal inside the cell that is called signal 1. Another co-stimulation is necessary. For example, in CD28 molecule of T cell binds to B7 molecule of antigen presenting cell, and they then give rise to signal 2, which is also makes an intracytoplasmic response. When these two signals comes together, then the further second messengers and further cascade of reaction take place. One method of the co-stimulation needed to activate the T cell. If the T cell fails to receive the signal 2, it dies out. It dies out by apoptosis. So that cannot mount any immune response. If this form of second response is defective, then autoimmunity can occur. Central tolerance. So we see that the lymphoid precursor in the generative or primary lymphoid organs, whenever they encounter any self antigen present in the generative lymphoid organ, this cell central tolerance deletion of the lymphocyte or specific for self antigen present in the generative organ occurs. So this cell becomes deleted, and maturation of clones not specific for self antigen present in generative organ, and rest of the cell which are not directed against the self antigen, they become mature. In the peripheral tolerance, we see whenever the T cell in the peripheral tissue encounters any self antigen, the peripheral tolerance occurs by deletion or energy that is non-responsiveness of the lymphocytes that recognize the self antigen in the peripheral tissue. Immune response to foreign antigen that remains there intact in the peripheral lymphoid tissue. So we see that the maturation occurs. How the T cells are matured? We see that the T cell from the bone marrow goes into the thymus, and where the T cell maturation occurs, the T cell releases lymphokines. T lymphocytes are activated by the antigen presenting cell. From here, antigen presenting cell, then clonal expansion occurs, and it's converted into different types of different genera of T cell. For example, cytotoxic T cell that kills the virus infected cell. It may be converted into memory cell for further mounting of the immune response. It may be converted into suppressor T cell to break the response, otherwise it will go on in an unbridled way. So the response can be cut short or can be made appropriate by this suppressor T cell, and other cell are converted into helper T cell, either helper 1 or helper 2. Mechanism of immunological tolerance overview. If we summarize the mechanism, then there are two types: central tolerance through clonal deletion. Clones of cells that have receptors for self antigens are deleted during development. Peripheral tolerance, clonal energy. Failure of antigen presenting cell to deliver a second signal during the antigen presentation. So, for example, I have mentioned it previously, that is the B7 and CD28 interaction doesn't occur. So the T cell cannot mount an immune response. So this is called clonal energy. Suppression of responses may occur by production of regulatory T cell. We know the regulatory T cell is another subpopulation which can suppress the response so much so that the immune response to self-antigen cannot occur. And these suppressor molecules are transforming growth factor beta, IL-10, and we know there is fighting between TH1, T helper 1, and T helper 2 cytokines. One acts as pro-inflammatory, another acts as anti-inflammatory. Some cell may be ignorant to self-antigens, so they cannot mount any type of immune response. So autoimmunity, now we'll switch over to it. Immune reaction against self-antigens are called autoimmunity. It arises from a combination of inheritance of susceptibility genes. So genetic factor is always important, which may contribute to the breakdown of self-tolerance, that is autoimmunity. There are other factors like environmental factors such as infection or tissue damage, which promote the activation of the self-reactive lymphocyte. So there is formation of new antigen, or sometimes there is exposure of the hidden antigen that can mount an immune response, and this can give rise to autoimmunity. And the genetic and environmental influences conspire to create an imbalance between the control mechanism that normally function to prevent self-reactivity. So the control mechanism is at jeopardy, it is destroyed, and ultimately autoimmune response occurs. Now, how do we diagnose autoimmunity? At least 3 conditions should be fulfilled before diagnosing a disease as autoimmunity, before categorizing a disease as truly autoimmune disease. Number 1, presence of an immune reaction specific for self-antigen or self-tissue. So the response should be an immune response, and it should be specific for that self-antigen or self-tissue. Evidence that such a reaction is not secondary to tissue damage. Any type of traumatic tissue damage may expose an antigen and may give rise to a local response, but that is not autoimmunity. So it must be of primary pathogenic significance. So it is not only due to tissue damage, but other mechanism. The absence of another well-defined cause of disease. If you have an well-defined cause of the disease, so that is not autoimmune. That is due to that cause. So induction or acceleration of autoimmunity from downwards to upwards, if we go, so we see that the drugs, for example, penicillin may act as an hapten. It is an incomplete antigen. Whenever it binds to some plasma component or some tissue component, then it becomes a complete antigen and it can mount an anaphylactic type of reaction. So drug metabolism, the product may be converted into an active drug, may have an antigenic property. So formation of a protein adducts that acts as a new antigen. Its combination with the protein adduct, a combination of the drug and the protein may produce a new antigen, and that may mount an autoimmune response. Virus-induced epitope spreading, revealing of cryptic or hidden epitopes may be revealed, and that may mount. Molecular mimicry, structural similarity of host and pathogen component may give rise to, for example, in case of rheumatic fever, we know local inflammation, altered antigen processing by the immunoproteasome. So antigen processing may be defective, and that may give rise to some sort of local inflammation, and that may give rise to autoimmunity due to exposure of the antigen hidden there. Bystander immunoinflammation at target site. Chemokine gradient towards the target site that attacks more aggressive cell. So ultimately the gradient chemokine released at the site of inflammation that may attract more immune cell, and that may mount so much a great reaction that may cause autoimmunity. Direct infection of the cell, release of sequestered antigen. Some antigen may be hidden that may be exposed due to infection, particularly viral infection or sometimes cancer, etc. may give rise to exposure of the sequestered antigen and activation of autoaggressive lymphocytes. how the autoimmunity is downregulated. Say, for example, direct infection of the cell, release of sequestered antigen, activation that may give rise to not only the effector cell, but can activate the regulatory lymphocytes, which may which may diminish the response. So the autoimmunity is cannot mount on. Inflammation other than the target site. Any site of inflammation other than the target site may leads all the chemokine gradients to that portion of the site of inflammation. So other portions are not exposed. So autoimmunity cannot develop. Virus-induced immune suppression. Some virus itself may produce decrease in immune response. Say, for example, HIV virus. So that is immunosuppressive. So modulation of antigen presenting cell activity and MHC class 1 downregulation that prevents the autoimmunity or abrogates the autoimmunity. So autoimmunity depends upon a fine balance. Autoimmunity immune mechanism, bridal immune, concerted immune mechanism depends upon the fine balance between the T regulatory and the T effector cell. So if there is any impairment of the T regulatory cell, if there is decrease in the number, for example, if there is decrease in generation of the T regulatory cell, that may give rise to autoimmunity, for example, SLE, TID, etc. Decreased proliferation and survival of the regulatory cell, they may give rise to autoimmunity. Decreased stability of the regulatory cell, that may give rise to autoimmunity. Decreased function of the regulatory cell, that may give rise to autoimmunity. Or if there is enhanced effector cell, that may give rise to autoimmunity. Or microenvironment may be altered so that there is imbalance between these two. They are not decreased in number, but there is imbalance due to alteration in the microenvironment present at the site of inflammation. So increased resistance to regulation. Say, for example, SLE, multiple sclerosis, etc. They give rise to autoimmunity. Immune-mediated inflammatory diseases. Diseases are of several types. Disease mediated by antibodies and immune complexes. And another is disease mediated by T cell. So we see organ-specific autoimmune disease. Organ-specific autoimmune disease. So we see that autoimmune hemolytic anemia, it is the autoimmunity develops against the RBC. Autoimmune thrombocytopenia against the platelet. In myasthenia gravis, it is against the thymus. And also the nicotinic receptor. It is the nicotinic receptors of the motor end plate. Graves' disease against the thyroid. Goodpasture syndrome, it may be due to kidney and the lungs. Systemic autoimmune disease. It may be systemic lupus erythematosus. It's a generalized response of formation of excess antibodies or immune complexes. So it is diseases caused by autoimmunity or by reaction to microbial antigen. For example, polyarteritis nodosa, disease mediated by T cell. Organ-specific autoimmune diseases like type 1 diabetes mellitus against the pancreatic beta cell, multiple sclerosis, or systemic autoimmune disease like rheumatoid arthritis, systemic sclerosis, Sjogren's syndrome, etc. Diseases caused by autoimmunity or by reaction to microbial antigen, like inflammatory bowel disease, like ulcerative colitis, inflammatory myopathies, etc. It may occur. It may occur. Autoimmune cardiovascular diseases, both cellular and human immunity play a role. For example, rheumatic fever, atherosclerosis, its causation is multifactorial and it is influenced by autoimmune diseases also. Rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis, there is cardiovascular involvement, like cardiovascular involvement. It occurs, even sudden cardiac death may occur. And there are a lot of causative agents, particularly there are a lot of factors which influences upon this, like genetic polymorphism and heterozygous versus homozygous, polymorphism in endothelial one gene, etc. These influences, this autoimmune mechanism influences the early development of cardiovascular diseases in rheumatoid arthritis. So there may be genetic polymorphism, like different types of allele that may produce different types of response in rheumatoid arthritis. If the person is homozygous to that allele, a defective allele which produces early cardiovascular involvement, the disease will be much more severe and will be presented earlier. In heterozygous, it will be later. So polyautoimmune disease, not that the person will suffer from only one autoimmune disease, but multi-autoimmune disease may be present at the same time, and that may give rise to a very severe type of cardiovascular disease also. SLE, in case of systemic lupus erythematosus, there is 2 to 4-fold increase in myocardial infarction. There is formation of early carotid plaque. Younger patient with more severe cardiovascular diseases are present. Antiphospholipid syndrome, all cells in the membrane contains the phospholipid. So when there is formation of antibody, different types of antibodies against this phospholipid antigen, then it is called antiphospholipid syndrome, and it produces early atherosclerosis, arterial and venous thrombosis, etc. And it's very massive type of arterial and venous thrombosis may occur. Sjogren's syndrome, it is a exocrinopathy. The salivary gland, the lacrimal glands become affected by this autoimmune disease. There is dryness of the mouth, loss of tears, etc. But at the same time, cardiovascular involvement may also be present. So in case of rheumatic fever, what happens? We know that the streptococcal primary infection is the sore throat or other things that causes rheumatogenic factors, certain M protein present on the streptococcus antigen, and molecular mimicry with the host protein. The proteins, particularly in the joint, synovium, heart, all layers of the heart, has a mimicry, similarity to the M protein present on the streptococcus. And so abnormal immune response occurs to this M protein. Antibodies are formed against this M protein, which then cross-react with the host tissue. That is the inflammation of the tissue. Another mechanism is that whenever there is streptococcal infection, there is destruction of the tissue and collagen binding factors are there exposed, aggregation of collagen, and they produce an autoimmune response. Ultimately, there is inflammation of the tissue, rheumatic fever, and rheumatic heart disease occur. Antiphospholipid syndrome. The antiphospholipid syndrome is defined by the occurrence of venous and arterial thrombosis and or pregnancy related morbidity combined with presence of antiphospholipid antibodies and or a lupus anticoagulant. The most common cardiac manifestations are valvulopathies, ranging from valve thickening through non-bacterial thrombotic endocarditis. This is also called Liebman-Sachs endocarditis, to regurgitation and severe valvular damage and coronary artery disease also. Valvulopathies and coronary artery disease are the main cardiac manifestation in antiphospholipid syndrome, while other less common cardiac manifestations include myocardial dysfunction, pulmonary hypertension, and intracardiac thrombus formation. In SLE, SLE is characterized by the production of pathogenic autoantibodies directed against the nucleic acid and their binding proteins, reflecting a global loss of self-tolerance. SLE antigen dependent activation of the autoreactive B cell and CD4 T cell in secondary lymphoid organs leads to production of pathogenic autoantibodies that, along with inflammatory cytokines, promote tissue injury in the lupus. Antigen presenting dendritic cells are necessary for the adaptive immune cell activation and contribute to the inflammatory cytokine production. So we see that is the CD4 cell. This is dendritic cell. This becomes activated by some genetic and environmental stochastic mechanism interaction, and CD4 in the secondary lymphoid cell that activates the B cell against this self antigen. B cell activators produces autoantibodies and tissue injuries, and this antigen presenting cell, that is the uh, plasmacytoid dendritic cell, they also becomes activated. They produces interferon, and they auto activate the CD4 cells again. So the cycle goes on, and ultimately there is lot of tissue damage. So in autoimmune rheumatic fever, rheumatic disease, we see that all the portions of the heart may be affected. The pulmonary vasculature may be affected, which cause pulmonary hypertension, embolism, systemic sclerosis. Pulmonary, all the cardiac tissues can be affected by different autoimmune diseases. These are, so say for example, pulmonary vasculature. These are affected by the pulmonary hypertension. And or embolism, and this may occur in systemic sclerosis, systemic lupus erythematosus, antiphospholipid antibody syndrome. Conduction tissue may be affected, for example, in case of neonatal SLE or systemic sclerosis. Pericardium may be affected in systemic lupus erythematosus, systemic sclerosis. Endocardium may be affected in SLE and antiphospholipid syndrome. Coronary arteries may be affected in case of antiphospholipid antibodies, systemic sclerosis. Myocardium may be affected in systemic sclerosis and polydermomyositis. So this is all about the autoimmune mechanism which affects the heart in particular. So heart in particular. So we'll have to take care of the not only the heart but also the autoimmune disease itself uh, to treat this patient in a very effective and beautiful way. This is all about. Thank you very much for kind listening. Uh, so you go through the figures and also go through the textbook for detail. That will be very much useful, I think. Thank you very much. So that is all about the autoimmune disease affecting the heart. Thank you very much. Now I finish. Okay, thank you.